here. As a kid, I used to imagine my older self calling my younger self using this telephone. Sometimes, dwelling on the past like this can feel like a big waste of time. But perhaps there's value and wisdom to embracing our past, especially our mistakes, and making those our guideposts for today and tomorrow. So, don't be afraid to pick up the receiver and give yourself that call to think about the past. But would you? Would you pick up the receiver and give your younger self that call? I mean, what would you even say? Don't worry, just keep on trying. Stop listening to your brother all the time. All he does is annoy you. All these words of advice and trying to change your past for a better present might seem, well, useless. But what if I told you that all these words held value? When we think about the past, we like to focus on the moments that we could have done differently. But we tend to forget to focus and to acknowledge those moments. Reflecting isn't about regret. It's about understanding the value of your journey that has shaped you. The awkward moments, the failures, the heartaches, they all contribute to who you are today. And just as we reflect onto the past, our present is in a constant state of flux. Our world is changing so rapidly that sometimes we're forced to adapt to new lifestyles and habits. And with this, think about the evolution of communication. From early telegraphs to smartphones, each iteration brought us closer to instant connectivity. But can you imagine how many different designs, prototypes, and other failures there were of this? Yet, the core purpose, to connect to people, remains unchanged. They had to learn what worked. They had to learn what didn't. And well, this relentless cycle of learning and adapting required them to embrace change. I mean, do you guys remember this type of phone? We don't see them anymore, do we? But just as our world adapts, don't we too undergo changes as individuals? Just like the models of a phone, each iteration is more advanced and capable. Just like how phones evolve, we too transform, changing parts of ourselves to better thrive and adapt to new realities. So as the present unfolds, step into the future with the lessons of the past. Let those lessons guide you and your actions in the present to paint a future that resonates with you. But as a 15-year-old high school student, how do I know what my future looks like? How do I make the right decisions to make the decisions that I have to make at the end of high school? How do I do that when I've got no clue what my future is? I mean, just look at the innovations of the past few years. AI, AR, self-driving cars. And with all these new technologies, how do we know the impact and the potential these innovations have? Have you ever listened to a guy talk about something he doesn't really understand? It goes something like this. AI is a mind reader. It's basically our brains. I mean, I read it on Wikipedia this one time. AI can do absolutely everything. It'll probably take over our jobs. So you hear things that aren't quite right. And to think that this is the line of thinking behind the decisions we make in the future is, well, scary to say the least. Knowing how to use a tool like generative AI doesn't necessarily mean you understand the potential of it. Thinking about the future requires a good understanding of the present. And in order to step into the future confidently, you need to understand how we can utilize what we have today to tomorrow. And so, but is that all we need? When we think about the future, we tend to see nothing. We tend to see everything that, well, is confusing. And so when I was preparing for this speech, I wasn't really sure. I had a ton of ideas, but I never really pinpointed one. The closer this day got, the more nervous I felt. And the more I started to overwhelm myself. And that's when the fear was so intense that I just couldn't express myself anymore. At that point, I had hit rock bottom. So I did what anyone else would do. Tell my mom. And well, she reminded me of a specific moment in my life, a school play, where I was cast, drumroll please, as a tree. And well, I didn't have any lines, but I made the most out of it. I practiced standing tall and proud, and that little role was my first experience at being seen. And I realized that my confidence grew only afterwards, and that being on stage truly gave me that chance to grow. And well, here I am. However this speech turns out, I know that I'll learn something from this too. However this speech turns out, I know that this experience will teach me something. In a few years, I might even reflect onto these moments of self-doubt. And even with this, self-doubt, I know that it's a barrier we often impose on ourselves. And with this, well, self-doubt can be overcome as long as you push beyond your comfort zones, as long as you embrace your failures as stepping stones and embrace change as a chance to grow. So step into the future, using your past not as your destination, but as your map. Because what? Navigating the unknown can be intimidating, but isn't that what makes the journey exciting? The fear drives and fuels your growth. So, from the familiarity of a landline phone to the connectivity of your smartphones to the endless possibilities of the future, don't be afraid to go back sometimes to the past, to pick up the phone, and to give yourself that call. Thank you.